Мы провели рабочую встречу с министром иностранных Иордании господином Н.Джоды, обсудили две крупные темы: сирийский кризис и палестинскую проблему.
We've just held a working meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Jordan, Mr. Judeh. We've discussed Mr. Jordan. We've discussed two major issues: the Syrian crisis and Palestine.
В том, что касается сирийского кризиса, наша общая позиция заключается в том, что необходимо резко активизировать усилия по началу политического процесса сирийского регулирования на основе Женевского коммюнике от 30 июня 2012 года.
As for Syrian crisis, our common position is that we need to boost the efforts for the political process in the Syrian settlement, based on the Geneva communiques of the 30th of June 2012.
Это предполагает начало полномасштабных переговоров между представителями правительства Сирии и всем спектром сирийской оппозиции, как внутренней, так и внешней, при активной поддержке внешних игроков.
This stipulates the beginning of the full-scale talks between the Syrian government and the whole spectrum of the Syrian opposition, both external and internal opposition, with the support of external forces.
И Россия, участвуя в усилиях по созданию условий для такого процесса, последовательно выступает за то, чтобы в них также участвовала и Иордания.
And Russia, while participating consistently in these efforts, has taken a consistent stance for Jordan to participate in them.
Считаем роль Иордании весьма важной с учетом исторического фактора, с учетом той принципиальной позиции, которую королевство, включая его величество короля Абдаллу II, занимают по проблемам региона.
And we believe that the role of Jordan is very important, taking into account the historic reasons and the principled stance that is taken by the kingdom and the King Abdullah II.
Одновременно с политическим процессом мы убеждены в необходимости резко нарастить усилия в борьбе с ИГИЛ и прочими террористическими группами в Сирии.
Along with the need to boost the political process, we are convinced that there is a need to step up efforts to fight the Islamic State and other terrorist groups in Syria.
В качестве вклада в решение этой задачи по договоренности между его величеством королем Абдаллой II и президентом России Владимиром Путиным, военные двух стран, военные России и Иордании, договорились координировать свои действия, в том числе действия военно-воздушных сил над сирийской территорией.
And as a contribution to this process, King Abdullah II and President Putin of Russia have agreed to coordinate the actions of the militaries of Russia and Jordan, including coordination of actions of airspace forces.
И военные двух стран договорились координировать свои действия через рабочий механизм в Омане, в столице Иордании.
And the military agencies of two countries have agreed to coordinate their actions through the working mechanism in Amman, capital of Jordan.
Мы считаем, что и другие государства, которые участвуют в антитеррористической борьбе, могут присоединиться к этому механизму.
And we think that other states that participate in the anti-terrorist fight can join this mechanism as well.
В отношении палестинской проблемы мы выразили серьезную озабоченность нарастанием напряженности в отношениях между Израилем и Палестиной, особенно нарастанием напряженности в Восточном Иерусалиме, в святых местах.
And as for the Palestine issue, we have expressed great concern due to the growing tensions between Israel and Palestine, especially due to the growing tension in Eastern Jerusalem in the so-called holy sites.
Россия твердо выступает за то, чтобы договоренности относительно статуса святых мест, которые закреплены в мирном договоре между Иорданией и Израилем, а также историческая роль Иордании в том, что касается статуса святых мест, четко соблюдались всеми без исключения.
And it is Russia's firm position that the status of holy sites that has been fixed in the agreement between Jordan and Israel be fully implemented.
Ну и историческая роль Иордании.
And the historic role of Jordan.
И, конечно же, параллельно с необходимостью разрядить вот этот вот нынешний кризис в Иерусалиме, мы убеждены в том, что следует наращивать усилия, как бы это ни было трудно, по возобновлению полномасштабных переговоров о всеобъемлющем ближневосточном урегулировании.
And of course, we are convinced that there is a need to break this crisis, no matter how difficult it is to break the crisis in Jerusalem. And there is a need to step up efforts for its full-scale continuation to reach a comprehensive settlement of the conflict.
Хочу еще раз подтвердить, что по нашему убеждению неурегулированность палестинской проблемы в течение многих десятилетий является одним из наиболее существенных факторов, которые позволяют террористам вербовать молодежь в свои ряды.
And I would like to repeat once again that the fact that the Palestine issue has not been settled for many years is one of major factors that allows terrorists to recruit young people into their ranks.
Мы с моим коллегой договорились по всем этим и по другим вопросам оставаться в тесном контакте.
And we have agreed with my colleague to keep in close contact on this issue and many other issues.
Thank you very much. I would just like to reiterate what Foreign Minister Lavrov has said. I am here in Vienna, having just returned from New York, where I attended the UN Security Council special session on the Middle East and the question of Palestine. And I made it very clear in my statement on behalf of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan that the holy sites in Jerusalem are the tinderbox that threatens to throw the whole region, if not the whole world, into disarray. We've said that before. Every time there's an escalation, and every time the emotions of 1.5 billion Muslims around the world are infuriated by these violations of the holy sites, Christian and Muslim, it usually results in repercussions that go way beyond the holy sites. This latest series of violations has seen an eruption of violence in the entire occupied Palestinian territories, and violence and counter-violence, which threatens, again, peace and security not just in the region, but around the globe. This is a direct result of this ongoing occupation. This is a direct result of the continuous violations. Jordan, I have said in the past, reserves all legal and diplomatic options, and perhaps with diplomatic options resulting only in temporary measures on the ground being implemented by Israel, the occupying power, then perhaps the legal option is what we should be concentrating on in Jordan these days, and this is what I said in the Security Council yesterday. But the fact remains, as the Foreign Minister said, that the solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and the wider Arab-Israeli conflict is peace negotiations that are timelined and according to the international points of reference that result in the establishment of an independent, contiguous, viable Palestinian state that is sovereign on its territory, and peace and security for all the nations and the people of the Middle East. I hope that this new cycle of violence will perhaps provide a silver lining by which we can find a process that begins and resumes substantive peace negotiations between the Palestinians and Israelis, according to the Arab Peace Initiative, as far as we are concerned, that guarantees collective security measures for everyone. So Jordan is a stakeholder in this. We're not an observer, we're not a mediator. All the final status issues between the Palestinians and the Israelis touch the very essence of Jordan's national security and national interest. So we will be pursuing that in cooperation with our friends in Russia and all the stakeholders. On Syria, as the Foreign Minister said, we had productive discussions. We have maintained strong links of communication and close consultation with our friends in Russia throughout the Syrian crisis. And there's an ongoing process of consultation between His Majesty the King and President Putin, and between the Foreign Minister and myself. His Majesty visited Moscow twice last year and a few weeks ago as well, and there was a telephone conversation between His Majesty the King and President Putin a few days ago. And of course, we are all committed to the political solution that ends this ongoing cycle of violence and killing and destruction that we have seen in Syria over the last 4 years, and we're all committed to the principles of Geneva I and subscribe to that, where discussions and negotiations will take place between the opposition and the Syrian government in order to produce a transitional governing body and a new chapter that will restore dignity to the Syrian people and preserve the unity and territorial integrity of Syria. Our primary concern alongside that, of course, is the fight against terrorism and extremism. And as His Majesty King Abdullah II has said repeatedly, this is our fight. These Muslims and extremists who come in different faces and in different forms every once in a while, who hijack our religion, the noble religion of Islam, and distort its image, have to be fought and have to be defeated along 3 tracks: the military and the discussion on global security, as well as the ideological. Russia is engaged right now militarily in the Syrian theater. We are a country that is on the receiving end of the humanitarian spillover of the Syrian crisis, with 1.5 million Syrians in Jordan today, but B, we are contiguous to Syria, on the border with Syria, and we are engaged, of course, in the lead, in the front line of the fight against terrorism and extremism, which requires that we coordinate very, very closely with all concerned because of our national security interests and because of the proximity to the Syrian territory. And that requires, of course, in line with the close and intensive consultation that we have with Russia, to have close coordination with our Russian friends, particularly between the military on both sides. And this is the mechanism that we have established through the contacts that are ongoing. And I hope that this mechanism will be effective in fighting all terrorists and extremists in Syria and beyond.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Спасибо.
Спасибо.